Today, we're shining the spotlight on Oryx, a groundbreaking dental practice management software that's not just about managing your practice, but also about revolutionizing the clinical side of dentistry. Plus, Oryx is offering our listeners something amazing, but more on that later. Let's talk about the heart of clinical dentistry, the need for cutting-edge, up-to-date clinical knowledge. This is where Oryx truly stands apart. Its dedicated clinical module, backed by the renowned Koi Center, is built on the latest research and best practices in dentistry. With this toolset at your disposal, you'll be equipped to provide the most advanced care to your patients. But Oryx goes beyond just providing tools. By seamlessly integrating the clinical module into your practice's workflow, Oryx promotes efficiency like you've never seen before. You can track patient conditions, plan treatments, and monitor clinical progress, all with one streamlined system. The result? More time spent on patient care, less on manual tasks, and overall, enhanced productivity. Consistency in clinical approach is another factor that sets Oryx apart. The clinical module ensures that your team is working with the same standards and protocols. This means fewer miscommunications, smoother workflow, and most importantly, consistent high-quality patient care. And Oryx has officially partnered up with Pearl, a cutting-edge AI imaging company. And with this collaboration, you'll now harness the power of artificial intelligence to enhance your imaging capabilities, enabling faster and more accurate diagnosis. So guys, check the deal out for all our listeners. If you're a startup, Oryx won't charge you a penny until you've reached 200 active patients. That means it's free. Oryx is free until they know you're succeeding. So click on the first link in the show notes below to schedule your free personalized demo. No strings attached. And if you love what you see, remember you get Oryx for free until you have reached 200 active patients. So don't miss out on this chance to elevate your practice with Oryx. And remember, this is more than just a software. It's a partnership for the growth and success of your dental practice. All right, it's time to talk with our featured guest, Jay Letwat. Jay, how's it going?
Everything is great, Michael. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good, man. I'm doing pretty good. I appreciate you coming on. If you don't mind me asking, I know, but like for our listeners, where are you located?
Based in Los Angeles. Yeah, that's where our headquarters are at.
How are you liking this rain?
It's kind of new to me, to be honest with you. I've only been in LA for 5-6 years. So it's new in the sense of LA, but like I'm originally from the Midwest in Chicago. So it rains and snows and could snow in, August, could rain in, March. So we're used to kind of the 4 seasons here. People start to panic a little bit when the rain comes or when it gets cold. It's kind of funny, but it's nice. It's fun.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, that happens a lot all the time. But awesome, man. Okay, so then tell us a little bit about your past, your present. How did you get to where you are today?
Sure. So I've got about 20 years of experience, mainly on the technology disruption side. So I did a lot of consulting early on in my career, a lot of performance improvement, compliance work as well. Then kind of moved along into the technology space, and where I really have spent my time is in a lot of startups or growing technology companies that have kind of passed the startup phase, in which they have a unique technology and they need the ability to market that technology to the masses. And typically, it's a company that is really changing the game. It's really, really disruptive. So what I love to do and what I'm doing now at Sunbit is we're taking a disruptive technology in the pay over time space. And what we're trying to do, and what we're doing it successfully, is gaining significant market share in many different vertical markets, including the one that I manage, which is the dental patient financing space.
Okay, so break it down to me. Sunbit, I'm under the impression Sunbit is a bank or no?
No, we are a technology company. Mm-hmm. So we have the technology that allows or enables folks to get approved at a very high level. The technology enables us to approve about 85% of all people that apply for financing. And if I'm not sure how familiar or not you are with specific financing, but usually that number is in the 40% range, 35, 40% range, particularly now in a recessionary sort of environment, inflationary environment. It typically tops off at 30, 35%. We're more than double that. And a lot of it is really because of the technology that we use, a lot of AI, a lot of machine learning, because at the end of the day, what we're really doing, it's basically a math problem, right? Because when you go to a bank, when you're a small business, let's say, and you go for a loan, most people get rejected for a loan for many reasons. Maybe their overall credit isn't good. They haven't been in business that long because the bank doesn't want to take a risk on you, right? Banks don't like taking risks. What we do is we're able, using our technology, to provide folks all throughout the credit spectrum, not so great credit, mid-level credit, very high-end credit. We're able to get all those folks the patient financing they need when they walk into that doctor office. And so we allow, through the technology, more people to say yes to treatment. And that's ultimately what we're doing. We have banks that kind of administer the loans, but at the core, our focus is on the technology because it's really a technology problem. Like the ability to have someone who is, a good person, but they may have subprime credit. Historically, those folks don't get credit, right? You go to Target or Walmart or Nordstrom's or wherever. If you're subprime, you're not getting a credit card when they ask you if you'd like to, get a red card or get a Nordstrom card, right? What we're saying and what we're doing is we're enabling folks both at the low end of FICO and at the very high end, full spectrum. They can get the credit they need in the dental space as well as other verticals that we work with. And we're comfortable that we're going to get repaid, and we do it in a fair and transparent way and cost effective for the patient or the customer. And you can only really do that with like mathematical formulas, algorithms, AI, et cetera. This isn't, you can't do it via spreadsheet like the banks do and like some older patient financing companies that have been around for 30 years.
Gotcha. Okay. So I know you wanted to show something, right? Like a demo.
Sure.
Real
Sure,
quick. The demo is for what? Like for the patient doing it?
Right. So what we do, maybe I can explain a little bit. So what we do is we do point of sale financing. So let's say you haven't been to the dentist in a few years. You go to the dentist, they give you a comprehensive oral exam. They say, Michael, thanks for coming in. Appreciate it. Here's a list of 7 things that our doctor, the dentist, thinks you need to get done, right? And those 7 things have each, a treatment and a cost, right? And at the end, it's like, let's say $4,000. And they say, well, Michael, how would you like to pay for the $4,000? And you're like, holy cow, I didn't budget for that. I don't have $4,000 in my pocket, because it doesn't matter whether you have great credit or you make a lot of money in your job or you don't. No one budgets for unexpected medical expenses. Like you can't go on your personal Quicken and say, okay, 2024, I'm going to budget $3,000 for dental. It doesn't work that way. So what happens is that patient generally either says no to the treatment that they need, or they do kind of like a partial kind of, French menu sort of thing where they say, okay, I'm going to grab maybe the cavities here. I'll take this $500 treatment here, but the other $3,000 doesn't really hurt me so much today. So I'm going to go home. And then when it really hurts me, maybe I'll come back. Right. And that's dentistry for the last 50 years. What they call case acceptance. So the ability of, let's say you have those 7 things and it costs $4,000. And let's say you're only able, Michael, to pay for 400 of that. Well, your case acceptance is basically 10%, right? $400 divided by the 4,000 that you should have, was prescribed to you, right? Which is terrible, which means 90% of your needs are not met, right? And you're walking out the door and probably never coming back. So that's kind of historic dental. So what we do is patient comes in, they get qualified very quickly, and we approve nearly 9 out of 10 folks without doing any kind of hard credit check. We do a soft credit check, and the process is very simple, very clean. We like to think that it's like an unfinancing sort of transaction. It's almost like buying a coffee at a Starbucks drive-thru. We want the experience to be not the same experience you get at a bank or from some old time patient finance company that, maybe may still do it on pen and paper. Okay. So that's kind of the preface of what we do. And I can show you the kind of the process, how it works, because it's very, very different than anything you've seen, or folks in the dental market for the past 20, 30 years. They've generally never seen it. And they usually have a very positive reaction to it. Like, where have you been all my life? And can we talk and use this at your practice?
Yeah. Could we see it? Could we see
Yeah,
how it works and stuff? And
absolutely.
so
Sure.
for our listeners listening right now, if you want to go in the show notes below, you can watch the video version of it and we can see it right now.
Sure. So right on my screen, you see my iPad. Okay. And that's the iPad I have in my hand right now. Okay. So we provide this iPad to every dental office, and it could be more than one iPad, just depends on how many people, what kind of patient flow you have. So the first thing the office team does is they will select their name. Okay. So again, this is a demo. Michael, who do you want to be today?
Beyonce. Always.
Excellent choice. Who doesn't want to be Beyonce after all? Come on. Yeah. You click on Beyonce, then you click scan card. Then we take the driver's license, right? And it doesn't matter which state, it works in all states. On the back is a barcode, right? So you take that barcode, and what I do is I just scan that baby right there. Automatically what happens is, and again, this is in real time, I'm not, slowing it down, speeding it up, takes my home information, patient types in their phone number and email, they click continue, and then you simply ask the patient, hey patient, is this your updated info? They usually say yes. You click copy to form. The patient agrees to check their options. And just like that, you've been approved for $6,100. This is the approval process. That's it. We're done. Okay. Mm-hmm. So now there's a ton of things that happen in the background, right? But that's invisible to the practice, invisible to the patient, right? Again, this kind of goes into how we're a technology and data company. So a couple things here. One, you were approved for 6,100. We're approving every single patient with a FICO score of 500 or greater. So in terms of FICOs, 500 is a very, very low FICO, right? But we're able to approve them because of our unique and flexible model. If you approve from 500, it equates to typically 85 to 87% of all patients that apply. So going back to the dentist example, the office example, that 8.5 out of 10 people that walk in the office have the ability to get qualified for finance and can get the treatment they need. So that case acceptance number I gave you before, whether it's 10, 20, 30, or 40%, it shoots up dramatically. So they can actually walk out being happy because their, dental problems are solved. Okay. So the first thing, high approval. Second thing, we never do a hard credit check. So in the US, typically when you are, when I signed up for T-Mobile, they do a hard credit check, which impacts your credit. It's not fun, right? We do a soft inquiry to get to this point. So all we do is get basic information. It doesn't impact your credit score whatsoever. But the kicker is, even if you decide to move forward with the loan, we still do not do a hard credit check. So it has no impact. Your credit has no impact if you apply or take the loan initially, which is, again, very, very unique. And again, it kind of is because of our kind of technology backbone. And the last thing is we approve up to $20,000. So I'll just show you one more screen. Mm-hmm. So let's say, for instance, your treatment plan is $2,100. So you click 2,100. And then what we have here is basically a menu of options. Like, Burger King have it your way. Other partners of ours call it the Cheesecake Factory menu of options here. We usually have 3 to 6 options here, right? We highlight the one that's the most affordable. So, hey, patient, you don't have to pay $2,100 today. Again, sigh of relief, right? You can pay 48 months, $56. In this particular case, it's $1 down payment. Again, APRs vary. It could be 0% or higher. In this particular case, let's say it's 12.99. You see everything very clearly delineated. There's no tricks. There's no penalties. We don't do any kind of deferred interest, if you're familiar with that. Maybe the patient wants 0%. We have 0% options too. And so the idea is, and they just kind of select what they want and they kind of go through the process. Makes sense?
Go to the 0% one real quick.
Sure, no problem.
Okay. Got you. So it all changes throughout you're not set with the percentage then.
Correct. So the idea is the patient gets to choose what's best for them, right? We don't want to make a judgment call, right? We don't want to be judgmental, period, in life, right? We don't know what shoes the other person's sitting in, but particularly the dental office. I mean, you don't know whether somehow someone is dressed, and we shouldn't be making that. Let's let the patient decide. Maybe they're comfortable with 121 bucks a month, but maybe they're not. Maybe $56 is more comfortable for them. We let them decide. And that's kind of the power of the solution. There's, again, 3 to 6 unique offers that they're getting, and they choose what's best for them. That's kind of part of the secret. If you give a product that's customizable to the individual, they're going to like it more. And oh, by the way, they're going to pay us back at a higher rate, right? Which lowers the defaults, which again allows us to loan to more people. Here's something like I learned early on. So payday loans, right? Terrible, horrible, predatory, 400 or 500% terrible.
Mhm.
Well, why are they 400 or 500%? It's not because the money costs 400 or 500%, right? I mean, you can get a loan from a bank now, even with high interest rates, 12%, 13%, right? But the reason is because maybe 5 out of 10 people don't pay it back. So the 5 that do pay it back are paying for the 5 that don't pay it back. So that's why the interest rate is high. But if you can create a product that's customizable down to the individual, and you have a greater amount of people that pay you back, it's kind of like a self-fulfilling thing. You can continue to loan to more and more people so that your approval rates continue to be higher and higher and higher and satisfy more patients. And that's been kind of our goal from day one. We want people to pay back. So we have developed unique offers for every individual.
Can they customize also the down payment due at checkout?
Yeah. So they can, for instance, you can, let's look at here. Let's say they want to lower the $56 a month. Let's say it's still too high. You would just go click here and say, okay, I want to pay 500. I just want to make sure. Remember the 56.30.
Mhm.
So let's say they want to make a $500 down payment, right? Because they want to lower the monthly payments. You click update, and then magically, what happens? It's $42 a month. So totally customizable. And a lot of people do that. And we want them to do what's most comfortable for them. I don't want to dictate what's best for them. I don't know what they want, but they know what they want. So let's give them the option. When you go to the Starbucks drive-through, do they tell you what coffee to get? No. You can get 10 different variety, 20 different variations of a macchiato. That's why they're successful.
Yeah. Interesting, Jay. Okay. So a couple questions I have when it comes to the technology, because you said this is new, right? Disruptive technology. Nobody's doing it in the industry, or?
No, I mean, their patient financing has been around for 25 years. But historically, even today, it's very much FICO driven. So if your FICO is 681, you get the credit you need. If it's 679, you get decline. It's like a straight number, right? And there's companies that provide those numbers. There's, Vantage, and there's various, Experian, TransUnion, et cetera, to provide the number. So most of the companies historically just do that. And there's not really any technology there, right? That's mainly how banks are, like old school patient financing companies that have been around since like 1990. That's what they do. But think about this example. Let's take you and I. Today, our FICO scores are 650, right? Both of us, like, it looks like we're the same, right? But what if a year ago, yours was 600 and mine was 700? Who's the greater risk? We're not the same. 650 is not the same. You're a much better risk than I am because you're on your way up, you're trending, and I'm on my way down. So our offers might be a bit different, and they should be a bit different. We can't be treated the same. So we look at thousands of data points. Basically, and we're not getting any kind of secret information. We're doing a soft data inquiry, right? So we're getting kind of condensed data, and then we take that data and we use it to model. Basically, we measure it against our AI model, and then it spits out the information. Okay, approve, not approve. If we're going to approve them, how much are we going to approve them for? What's the APR? Then again, what's the merchant fee if there's a down payment, et cetera. So it's that uniqueness that enables us to come up with an offer that could be very different than someone else. So typically, a lot of the folks that we're approving people aren't touching with a 10-foot pole. Why? Because historically, if you're measuring things by FICO, it's just not real accurate for installment loans of 18 months or 24 months. So we have confidence that we're going to get paid back. In terms of our, numbers, people do pay us back at great rates. So that's, I think, the difference. Everyone is a bit different in the world. Every American is different. When they apply for credit, they're different. And you have to have a product that takes that into consideration. We're not like just a score, right? We're made up of thousands of different, uniqueness characteristics, I'm not talking about finance, but just in general, we're all different. Mm-hmm. So you need to have kind of a scoring system, a mathematical model that takes that into consideration.
Now, when it comes to this, I know you mentioned soft data, hard data pools.
Mm-hmm.
And what's behind the soft data pool?
So basically, how it works is these credit agencies basically charge money, right, to companies that would like to pull your data. Of course, it's with your authorization. So I don't know if you remember on the iPad, there's clear authorization that says you agree to having your credit soft pulled. So basically, it's like a condensed credit file. Okay. So if you get that condensed credit file, that soft inquiry, it doesn't have any impact on your credit score. If you get a hard credit check, which, by the way, nearly all the patient finance companies use. Why do they use it? Because it has much more granular data. And they basically take the granular data, they feed it into their kind of limited model, and then they say approve or not. Our technology takes the more limited data, and then we feed it into our proprietary model. And it gets us to an answer that's satisfactory, such that we don't need the hard credit check. And oh, by the way, hard credit checks are terrible. Like if you're, if you're buying a house or an apartment, it hurts you. It's questionable in terms of how much and how long it hurts you in terms of your report, but it clearly hurts your credit for a period of time. So we avoid that. We avoid the friction in the office staff because of that. And again, the regular people, just like the folks that are walking in, they don't want to offer a product or a service that's going to hurt their patients, right? That's just not human nature. So it reduces the friction. So when they use, when they're working with us, some of it working with the iPad, they can be comfortable that it's only a soft inquiry. And so that helps us get a lot more utilization than the company that they used before, we got to their office.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. I know a lot of the times, like I remember when I was trying to build up my credit, like it was in the 600s, and I'm like, oh man, any little thing, hard inquiry.
Oh yeah.
Get out of there. Right. Like I didn't want that.
Terrible.
Yeah. Kind of
like
thing.
I'm like paranoid. Like I have, those free credit services, and I look on the report because you want to check it. Like or if you're in the process of buying a house or whatever, or a car, you don't want your hard credit check. But even if you're not, like in general, there's really no reason. Like I was telling you a story when I moved to LA and I went to the T-Mobile store, they took down my information. And before they even asked me what package I wanted, they were like, oh, we need your social security number because we need to do a hard credit check. And I'm like, why do you do a hard credit check when you don't even know what I want? Like, what if I want prepaid? Like, I would maybe pay you the cash. Now that's not what I wanted, but they're like, no, we have to do a hard check. It's like, no, well, you really don't. Just that they don't have the technology in place to kind of determine the credit worthiness of that customer. And we do. So that's why it's a soft inquiry. And we're, I believe, the only company that does it in terms of the approval process. And then when they actually take the loan, still no hard credit check.
Wow. Okay. So I never thought about that, Jay. I always thought it was like a people problem instead of a technology problem when it came to like being approved.
It's not. It's. I'll tell you, it's like it's a complex math problem, right? It's like this guy who has a 610 FICO, let's say, he has a job or she has a job. They have money in their checking account, but based on historical credit worthiness standards, they are not getting any credit card whatsoever, right? Because it's been told by them that it's not happening. But we look at it very differently. Like if it's a $2,000 installment loan and it's over 24 months, the question is, does this person have $100 in their checking account every month? Because we're pulling out of their checking account. And the answer is generally yes, but it goes against all the kind of the credit decisioning that's been going on since like 1950. I mean, I brought something here, which kind of cool. So you're from the West Coast. This is a credit card application. There's a store called Gimbals based in, I believe, Philadelphia, opened in 1880, closed in like 1987. This is actually, you can kind of see it here. This is actually a credit card application from 1967, pristine condition. Okay.
Yeah.
So what's interesting about it is if you look at the question, it's kind of small print, so I'll read it. If you look at the questions, the same questions of what's your income? Do you rent versus own? Are you married versus single? This is 1967. So what have credit card companies and patient financing companies done? All they've done, this is the same 1967 application. They just digitized it. They're asking the same questions. I guarantee you, if you go to an office that has another patient financing solution, or you go to Target, or you go somewhere else, they're going to ask you married versus single, what's your income, rent versus own. These are questions literally 60 years old, and they're still asking. This is basically what you see today is digitized. So there's like a lack of innovation that has taken place, that actually hasn't taken place, right? In specifically patient financing in 30 years, literally nothing. And so what we're doing is we're focusing on the technology and solving the math problem and helping a heck of a lot more people get approved and get the dentistry they need. And that's why we're growing so rapidly.
Gotcha. So then I like that part where you light bulb. I mean, like it opened my eyes. It's true. We just put it on a computer and now we're kind of like presenting it to people, and we don't really see the need to change until you kind of showed us the demo. I have a question.
Sure.
When it comes to the risk on this, let's just say, okay, 610, right? Credit score. I'm going to pay you back. And then we do the Sunbit thing. And then we're like, okay, boom, I'm going to pay 58 something. He pays the first one. Then he kind of skips on the second one, third one. Oh no, it's starting to go down, right? It doesn't look good. Who runs the risk there?
So we do non-recourse loans, which means we take full risk. Let's say you're at the dental office and you do a $2,000 transaction for bridge, crown, etc. 2 days later, we send those funds to the office, and then we sit back and we wait for the patient to pay us. If they don't pay for whatever reason, that's my mistake. You guys are sitting on the money within 2 business days, and we will never claw back those funds. So we are taking the risk. And as you can imagine, that being said, we have a very heavy duty data analytics, risk, fraud, et cetera, group that manages this risk. And obviously there's a lot of techniques that we use in the process to kind of minimize this, but we also have a huge collection group. So we have a customer care center, 160 people in Las Vegas, our employees. We manage it top to bottom, and we call it like collections with kindness. So it's really, really important for us to maintain those relationships, because we have also customers that are fixing their cars, getting new set of tires, new batteries. And those same customers are dental customers as well. So there's a lot of cross vertical customers we have. Even more when you think about it, remember, we're not financing power boats, right? It's not like someone goes and says, I'm going to buy a $30,000 power boat and then I'm not going to pay it, right? These payments on average could be 70, 80, 90, $100 a month. So generally, when that's the case, plus the process is good, it's very clear. We only work with, great partners. They may be late by a day or two. So we'll call them up and say, hey, what's going on? Very nicely. And generally, no one wants to ruin their credit for 70, 80, $90 a month. Now, if it's a $30,000 power boat, that's kind of a different calculus, right? You may want to say, I want the power boat and I don't want to pay for it, right? And it kind of says, okay, I understand kind of the logic there. I don't agree with it, but I understand it. But in dentistry and auto and the other verticals we're in, typically it's high frequency, lower dollar monthly payments. And generally people are paying them.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense. So then in the practice, let's just say somebody's listening. They're like, oh, cool, Sunbit, right? I'm going to check them out. I'm going to try it. But they already have like Care Credit, Lending Club, Verity, right? All these other ones. Is it just another add-on? Like, do we just add it on, or what do you recommend? Do we take others? Would it even make sense to have other ones on anymore because we have Sunbit?
Yeah, it wouldn't, because we like to say we are the waterfall, because we're approving folks from 500. So every single patient that has a 500 FICO and higher, we're approving. So again, it's 85 to 87% generally. So that's higher than all those solutions combined, right? Even if you kind of stack them up. So when we go to an office, we believe, and I think it's been proven by, we've got 9,000 locations in dentistry, that we believe we have the best financing product out there for patients, bar none. The process is better. The approvals are better. So if an office has multiple products, well, here's a question. I mean, if they have multiple products, why do they have multiple products, right? It's the old saying, like, if you have two quarterbacks, you have no quarterbacks, right? They have 4 products because they had 1, right? And then they had 2, didn't work. Then they had 3, it didn't work. And they had 4. They use us, and generally they eliminate everything that they typically use. And the results are better because we're eliminating a lot of friction. The office staff loves the tool. We have an appreciation program for the offices as well. We have a Sun Beast program, which, they can get, for just doing the regular course of their work, they can get, gift cards, etc. We also do some fun stuff as well. But in general, we are the primary financing provider of all the offices that we're in.
Gotcha. Sun Beast is the appreciation program?
Correct.
Oh, okay. And that's with like the practices.
Correct. So we have, right. So if you think about it, we've got right now 40, I want to say 50,000 Sun Beasts, because we have an application, and then when we train an office, they download the application, and then we send them cool things, like there's different promotions and things like that. They can learn that we have a Sunbit tip of the week, things like that. We want to train appropriately so that the office team members are really, really comfortable. We also want to make it fun. Like, we don't want to be, the boring finance company. Like, we want to be the guys that are helping people, doing it the right way, not charging any crazy fees or anything like that. We don't do any kind of, deferred interest. We think we can be the good guys, be profitable, and help a lot of patients get the treatment that they need.
What are the fees?
So the fees in general, they're risk-based. I won't go over like in detail, but in general, the fees are pretty much the same, very, very similar on a blended basis as what they're paying today. The difference is they're going to get double the amount of approvals, and they're going to have more people apply. So it's very common that they see our practices and our groups and our DSOs. We've got, large groups, mid-sized groups, single location groups. It's very common that we see 3x, 4x, 5x the amount of production with Sunbit than whatever they're using today. Because again, it's so easy in the high approvals, but the cost is basically about the same as what they're paying today.
Gotcha. Yeah. And I noticed like that's never really the issue when it comes to like presenting, or when it comes to accepting this, right? Like, let's just say, yeah, I'll take Sunbit, right? Or I'll take another third party. What's the issue is more like the patient's accepting it, right? And the one barrier is like, oh my gosh, you're not approved. You can't, even if you wanted to accept it, you can't, right? So that's a barrier lifted with Sunbit. But in your experience, what's the best way we could present this to a patient?
It's a great question. It's something that we talk about quite a bit in our training. So what we like to say is have the iPad do the talking, right? Show them the product, say, hey, when you go through the treatment plan, you do the comprehensive oral exam, you do the treatment plan, you're sitting down with the TC, and the TC generally says, or the office manager says, hey, it's $2,500, but you don't have to pay everything today. Let me get you qualified. Takes 30 seconds, no hard credit check. Again, because what happens is it's such a pressurized experience. And it's happened to me too. Like, even like prior to Sunbit, family member needed some significant dental work. It was like $7,000, $8,000. And you gasp. You're like, oh man, that's like crazy, right? Mm-hmm. It's not cheap. It's not getting cheaper either. It's getting much more expensive. So what happens is The person goes with, sits down with the TC. They hear that number. All of a sudden there's like a wall, right? There's a wall that's built. It's panic. You don't know what to do. On one hand, you need to get the work done. On the other hand, it's a crap load of money. And you're like, what do I do here? And you've stopped paying attention to whatever that other person is saying, because all you're thinking about is the little thoughts in your head, like, how am I going to pay for this? Right. And again, it doesn't matter if you're making 300,000 a year, 100,000 a year, 50,000. It doesn't matter. It's a lot of money, right? No one budgets for this. So when the TC can put the patient at ease and say, hey, I know this might be a large sum, but hey, you don't have to pay for everything today. We have a patient financing solution that approves 85, 87%. Let me walk you through it. Takes 30 seconds, no hard credit check. And then usually what happens is there's like a sigh of relief. The wall gets removed. There's a bit more openness, right? It's very much like human psychology, right? And that's what I've found. It's very interesting. And the wall gets broken down, and the patient is able to communicate clearly with the TC and the TC with the patient. And once they show the demo or they show the iPad, it's a very easy, simple, understandable process. And that's generally the best way to do it. You just want to kind of let the iPad do the talking.
Yeah. I like
and
that.
present it, but you got to present it. Like, we can't approve loans if the iPad isn't presented, right? Or if, you have to basically understand that, hey, 40 to 50% of patients that walk in the door have less than $1,000 in their checking account, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to truly help patients, right, this is a huge impediment to case acceptance, right? Like money. So if you can help them with this, you can get them more treatment, which is, I think, the goal of everyone that's working in the office, including the dentist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is the goal. I mean, but that's the thing. We have to remember, like, to present it, right? All the time to the patient. But I like what you said, how it's human psychology. It's true. Even if you get approved, because, for example, let's just say you have the cash and you don't get approved.
Sure.
You're in a negative flow now, right? You're like, of course I didn't get approved. That's what I thought. Let me talk to my husband, my wife about it. You know what I mean? I'll get back to you, blah, blah, blah. But when you're approved and you're like, oh, I never get approved. I'm approved.
Exactly.
Wow.
Look, Michael, I've seen people cry, tears of joy when they get approved. I've seen it multiple times. I've gotten hugs before, and like, it's very weird. Like, it's a beautiful thing, but it's very strange for it to happen because it's so infrequent. But you understand, we're not doing brain surgery here. Let me just put that out in front. But we are helping people with their oral health, which impacts the rest of their body. And if we can help people, full spectrum of folks that normally can't get helped, it's amazing. And you're right. There's two sets of what happens here. They get approved, and they generally haven't got approved before. In some cases, they're super happy. But the alternative is, in the past, when they get declined from other providers, they do not come back to the office. It's like the Terminator when he says, like, I'll be back. Yeah. He never comes back to the coffee shop at the end. You remember, he never comes back. Uh-huh. Right. So it's kind of it's really a gratifying thing that you want to help these folks. And this is a great tool for case acceptance, increasing the production of the office and helping patients get the treatment that they need.
By any chance, Jay, do you have any stats on how this has improved, like any specific practices? You know what I mean?
Of course. Yeah. I mean, we have lots of case studies. I mean, we've seen cases of, EBITDA, significant EBITDA improvements, significant production, case acceptance. We've seen sometimes 30, 40% increases, significant. Because again, if you're offering something that approves nearly everyone, you're going to get great results, right? Because keep in mind, from the office perspective, if you offer and someone gets declined, just like the patient won't come back, the office staff won't offer it anymore. So that's what's typically happened. So there's a large competitor out there that's been around forever, but a lot of people don't use it because they have been declined. The office has declined folks. So they just stop offering it. But so even though they've stopped offering it, that doesn't mean that the patients walking in the door don't have needs, right? They of course have needs. You're just not offering it to them.
Interesting. Interesting. Okay. So where can we reach out to if we have any questions or concerns?
Sure. So the best way is sunbit.com/dental. You can also email me. So I manage the dental practice at Sunbit, jay@sunbit.com. And happy to help anyone that, whether it's a single practice, single practitioner, multi-unit group, or large DSO, we work with all of them. Again, we want to help people. We want to do it the right way. And really, that's why we're growing at the rate that we are.
Nice. Awesome. So guys, that's all going to be in the show notes below. So definitely reach out to Jay. And Jay, thank you for being with us. It's been a pleasure, and we'll hear from you soon.
Great. Thank you very much, Michael. Appreciate being on.